developing this skill, honing this skill, man, it's been the most useful thing I've ever learned to do. And that is letting shit go. As a wife, things like, oh my goodness, the man cave. Oh man, it was a tough adjustment. It's crazy. In the beginning of my marriage, I had no interest in a man cave. By the end, I was so grateful for the man cave. Over time, I recognized the value of him having a space to go to, retreat to, that was all his, because the rest of the design in the house was largely set by me. That room, he got to have at it. Whatever you want in that room is completely up to you. And that was a learning curve for me, not just letting him decorate, but staying the fuck out of it. That room was meant to be a, no wife allowed zone for him to just be free and be as messy as he wants or clean as he wants. Before it was like, okay, we have our bedroom, now we need a guest room, then you can have a man cave kind of thing. But really, after having learned, throughout that relationship, that space is just as important as our master bedroom. And so it's kind of understanding how beneficial it is to let go of some of the things that have us wound so tight. Well, hello, beautiful people. How are you guys? I hope you are doing well. It's crazy, just a couple weeks of not doing this, and it feels like I have never been in front of the camera. I feel so much pressure, It's crazy. But yeah, for those of you that might have been wondering where I've been, I have been MIA for a couple weeks. Actually, it's been longer than that. It's been about a month. But as far as you guys can tell, a couple weeks since I've put out an episode, I had to take a mental health break. Unplanned, of course. Life has been showing its ass, and it was just so many different things all at once. And, I took the break from dating apps, and that just wasn't enough. Like, life just kept on going. And so this was the easiest thing for me to cut. But I am happy to report that things are much better. There's still a lot. The situation is still the situation in many respects, but perspective and like tiny little miracles that just kind of give you a nice little boost of hope and energy. I feel a lot better than I did the past few weeks. And so let's get into it, all of it. I'll try to work from the small things up to the big, because the big gonna take some time to discuss, and it's probably gonna have a shit ton of tangents. But first, it was just kind of logistics of things. Single mom, period. Trying to work through my work schedule, my childcare schedule, and make sure that I can make it work in a way that I continue to sufficiently provide for the household, Like, that is a real big thing. And I know that it's something that men think of, I think most men think of regularly, and it's a big pressure. And I've talked about that realization that I've had since being single, that men deal with this, period. This is just what they do. And so it's a struggle. It's a struggle. I definitely don't have the same type of motivation, and maybe it's because I'm a woman. I don't know. I think it's just some people are a little bit more motivated to do those things than others. I am motivated to bring my half. I am motivated to be that partner. It's not because I work. Well, I think I can work harder when I have somebody like accountable for that other half of the household finances, because it gives you the freedom to work well, Whereas when you think about just poor people all over the place, they got to do whatever they need to do to make that dollar. They don't have time to, they don't have the luxury of finding the perfect job or finding something that makes them feel fulfilled. Like it, the pressure is on their back to make sure that they clock in wherever the fuck and make that money. And so it makes it a little bit more difficult to find the time to direct your path in a way that's a little bit more fulfilling. And I definitely feel that kind of pressure where it's like, before, even though I was doing the same thing, there was the freedom of, if I don't like this, I can leave and go somewhere else, which I still can. I absolutely can. And I know that. But it's a different type of pressure that's on you to tread a little bit more carefully. You know, you can't shoulder the same risks that you can when there is somebody to help pick up the slack, if for whatever reason there is some. Now, I wonder, and I guess guys can say, do guys feel that type of freedom when they have a woman earner in the household with them? I don't know. I don't know if it's a male versus female thing or just how you're wired or whatever. But so yeah, I definitely feel a different type of pressure to do work, and it does feel a little bit inhibiting, a little bit like dream killing, you know? It just feels like my job has to be more functional than it was before. Although I'm still doing the same thing, you know? Like, it's just a perspective kind of thing, a mindset. And maybe, I don't know if it's just responsible or if it's just I'm doing too much with the thinking, making more of it than it really is. Who knows? But anyways, so yeah, logistics are always tough in this situation, mostly because I'm having to do it while I'm having to think about how to do things better while doing things. And it's exhausting. Adulting is exhausting, period. Like, throwing the kid in there is just silly. You know, quite honestly, it's just silly. It just complicates things even further. And you're operating for someone else for majority of the time. And so that's just kind of the undercurrent of just life. Then I found out, y'all, this is quite embarrassing, but I also don't have no problem really sharing it. I found out that I have bunions. Like, and I know that some of you already know what bunions are, and you're like, Sway, how did you just find out? Well, let me tell you, I did not know what they were in my mind. And I, like, why would I guess? But maybe other people do. In my mind, bunions were another name for corns on your feet. To me, the only thing that came to mind when I thought of bunions was that episode of Martin where Pam and Gina were working in Shanae's shop, and she had to do like Myra's toes, and Shanae came with the jackhammer to file them things down. That is my thought of bunions. I had no idea that the shape of my foot, the thing at the base of my big toe that creates a little bit of a curvature, was not supposed to be like that. Like, so much so, y'all, I kid you not, I had no idea. I thought this is what feet look like. I looked up bunions versus no bunions, and when I tell you that regular feet look weird to me, and I was like, that's supposed to look like that, huh? Interesting. It was wild. I was today years old when I found out what a bunion is and what a regular foot is supposed to look like. But yeah, so I was at a twerk class at my big old age. And cause y'all listen, I be twerking, but my body is progressed such that it can't quite keep up in the same way. But anyways, freak accident, came down on my toe wrong. And ever since then, like, I jammed it, right? And so ever since then, my toe has been, it was like swollen or whatever. And ever since then, I've been feeling pain in the side of my foot where the bunion is. And so I'm like, I must have broke something, like the protrusion wasn't, it's definitely not as pronounced on one foot, but the other foot, it wasn't as pronounced, or at least maybe I never realized it was, because I thought that's what feet just looked like, y'all. no lie. But anyways, I'm like, oh, it's sticking out. I must have really fucked it up. So then I, go and see a podiatrist. And before I got to the doctor, I was told by other people, oh, that's probably a bunion. And I was like, bunion? What is this that you speak of? I have none of those. And so I figured out what was prior to going, but that's, confirmed it. But anyways, speaking of logistics, the only really real solution is surgery. The surgery doesn't scare me or bother me. It's the recovery. How in the hell do regular adults be just taking care of their bodies in this way? Like, so your feet, breaking bones in them to heal it, to fix it, requires a long time to heal. I need my feet. I need my feet for a lot of stuff. It's not like exciting stuff, but like walking, driving, those are pretty big things throughout my day to day. And so how, pray tell, do I do this? How do I do this? And so I came to the conclusion that apparently I got to wait till my daughter's like, I don't know, in high school or something to be able to do. I have no idea. So that I have not quite figured out, but it was just another logistics thing of how do I do life on my own without just somebody just kind of step in and help when I need help. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. What friend do I need to pay to just like be there for me in this way for a couple of months or whatever while I need to heal? Or do I just need to suffer through the pain until then? It's really stupid stuff that just kind of starts to stack up and basically lead to an overall diminished quality of life, that I'm just like, God damn, what is happening? Things are just falling all apart. But yeah, so that was another thing that was really kind of bothering me. Well, those aren't big things. They're frustrating things. Frustrating trying to get life and finances and like time together. The bunion thing was just this added source of pain that just made it difficult to get through, regular tasks, and it just compounds kind of the sorrow of the moment or whatever. But the big thing, and I'm sure you can probably guess, was that raggedy ass ex of mine. And it's just, there's so many things. I'm trying to figure out which topics I really want to address, because all of them are big, but I be going on these tangents and I don't want to just do a whole bashing segment. Okay, so a lot of it has to do marriage. So when we say these vows, y'all, I don't think that we do a good job of making it clear what we're really signing up for. And I've mentioned this in the co-parenting video I put out almost a year ago. Y'all, in sickness and in health, till death do us part, like it's so much more than we are actually recognizing at that moment. We're not recognizing for richer or for poorer. Basically, I remember my ex and I, when we were first like doing our taxes together, and we were doing them on our own with like the little TurboTax or H&R Block CD, whatever. And they had a little cartoon video at the beginning of it. And it literally showed two single people, and then it showed them scoot together, and they're married now. And then there was like a saw that just kind of cut a nice little circle around them, and then the floor dropped beneath them, and they fell into the hole together. And basically, it was saying, y'all go together now. So if one of y'all is in the hole, y'all both is in the hole. So your credit is my credit. Your debt is my debt. Your health issues become my health issues. Your job trouble becomes my job trouble, because we are a package deal. We are one. And I think we be going into it thinking of all the good ways that this kind of comes together. Like, oh, I get extra money for rent. You get extra money for rent. I get extra spending money. You get extra spending money. I think that there should definitely be a course for people to get married, like you have to take this, and the test isn't about shoot, that sucks because it shouldn't have like, but no, it should. I was gonna say it shouldn't have like a cognitive requirement, but no, it should, because you are literally now responsible for these things like taxes, like a whole human life that you create in the context of that, and a family and the trajectory of all these things. I think you should have a understanding of what that means. And if you can't understand it, you probably shouldn't be able to do it. I don't know if I'm going to eat those words later, but right now it seems like it makes a whole lot of sense. Just understanding what you are, or maybe it's not like like you have to pass this with this much rate, but you have to, almost like you have to read the fine print. You have to check these boxes, like when you're signing a contract. I have read and accept all the terms herein. Maybe that's something that it needs to do at a minimum. Understanding that what you are saying is, I am now responsible for this person and they are responsible for me. And anything that we do together here on out is now a shared expense, a shared experience or asset or whatever that is inextricably linked. And if we decide to sever, you are going to literally have to rip an appendage off of your body. Period. And then understand everything that entails. And I'm really going way far out here. But what I'm trying to get back to is this thing of child support. And not, because I think there are so many things wrong with this court system and the way that it works for families and doesn't work. I really feel like the law only works for criminals, It's just a whole bunch of laws that seem to not really, it's hard to make a law that is foolproof, that works for every situation. That's why there's so many of them and so many like amendments and, all these different caveats and stuff like that. But I feel like it's so much easier for somebody to make a loophole than somebody to actually be benefited by the law sometimes. But maybe that's just a, perspective of getting wronged so many times. But I don't know how many contracts I've been in, dealt with, that when it was, when someone defaulted, there was nothing that could be done unless you had the money to waste time proving nonsense. I remember we were going to sell our house and we had a buyer. We got under contract and we had like, I can't remember what the name of it is, but the fee, if you were to break the contract and all this other stuff for any reason that was not allowable. Long story short, the couple that was trying to buy it broke up. And so they were like, I want out. No like legal reason per the terms of the contract. But we went to closing and they didn't show up. And that was that. And so we're over here trying to, it was a good market. So we were going to find something else, but it was like utilities cut off, like everything with like we had moved out. It was real. It wasn't like some play. Oh, we don't think that this is going to go through. No. It was, everything was set up until the day of. That was when we found out that they wanted out because apparently they had broken up. And when I tell you the money that they had put up, the earnest money deposit, that's what it is. The earnest money deposit that you put up to secure a place, saying like, hey, we're really interested. So we're so sure that we're interested that we're going to give you this money that is basically non-refundable. Unless some portion of the contract is broken. And we're going to give you this money and we'll finish the rest later. This is showing how interested we are as buyers. They got all their money back. No house sold. And the only way that we could try to get the money back is by hiring a lawyer to fight them in court that would cost more than the money we were looking to get back. That to me is a very simple picture of the court system as I know it. It's dumb stuff, but unless you have the money to prove it, you really don't get far. And so, hypothetically, in my situation, I am not even looking for support. Like, I'm not. I'm looking for us to split the child evenly. That's it. But the way that things, this is hypothetical, but the way that things work in the court system when you are married is they are going to require you to fill out a child support worksheet. Now, there are so many views that I have of this whole ordeal. One is the child support worksheet doesn't care what the situation is. It is a sheet that does not have too many, variation. It doesn't understand different variations or different situations or scenarios in marriages. It's like, I really don't care. Husband here, wife here, or whatever. Partner 1 here, partner 2 here. Put your name on the line and fill it out. I don't care what happened. I don't care where you are. Just fill it out. And so it, in many ways, can really be fucked up. In some ways, it can be on target. And I'll talk about the ways that I think it's on target and the ways that I think it's fucked up after. All right. So the ways that I think it's on target, I think that the goal of the child support whole system thing is you start with a family, you start with a household. And this goes back to what I said about understanding what you're signing up for when you decide to step into a marriage. And then when you take that next step and decide to bring a life into this world as a married couple, you are saying we as the entity of us, because when you become married, you go from a single person to a united entity, like a business. We as a business, as an entity, are choosing to bring this life forward, and we have chosen to share that responsibility of, raising this child. The court system is saying if you decide to sever that, they want to try to have the least effect on the child as possible. And in the idea of the child support thing, they just want to take whatever monies y'all have currently coming into the household. Then once you take that pot, what's going to the child if you guys are together? All right. So you have this money that's going to the child. Now we want to make sure that money is seen in both households. Now, that can be affected by the amount of days you have the child or how much money you make. Those are the two factors. So if all things are equal, both parents have the child the equal amount of days, then the only thing that affects how the pot is split is how much money is already in the household. If this household has a lot of money and this household has a little money, they're going to take this pot and try to even it out. They're going to be like, okay, give you a lot of it and give you a little bit and even these things out, because at the end of the day, they want the child's experience to be similar in both spaces. They don't want the child to go from being poor to being rich with one or the other parents, because essentially the quality of life is going to be fucked up for that child. Now, does that speak to when both parents are poor? Well, if you're poor single, then together you were just barely making it. So now you're just slightly underneath that, slightly above poor. That's just kind of what it is. So it doesn't really allow for much, but the truth of the matter is divorce is not the goal. That is not the ideal household or situation for a child to be raised in, period. So you kind of just have to make the best of a bad situation. And so if they're going to be two separate halves, the least that they can do is try to make them as equal as possible so that both of you have the same fighting chance of making it. It probably is also a little bit of a discouragement from doing it. Definitely is to a lot of people, especially people that feel they're going to be wrongfully affected by child support in the end. So the goal of the system is to try to give a similar quality of life in both arenas. Now, there are so many different caveats to that. But I think the biggest way that this gets messed up is by, one, the system not having any type of, like, not user input, but like a human, like, mediator or somebody to say, okay, based on the rules and the goals and the intentions of the child support system and the situation of the parties, this is how it does need or does not need to be, deviated from. Now, they do have something like that, but the fact that you have to go through lawyers and prove case and all that stuff, it kind of washes out the kind of just spirit of it. It just becomes more of a fight of whose lawyer is best or what you can prove that day based on these set of rules and all that other stuff. So it can be messed up because there's not really it's almost like computer based. So it doesn't have that infusion of humanity to truly make it kind of fair when people are having to fight in that way. All right, so there are really two ways that come to mind that these good intentions get really fucked up. One is lying, cheating, scamming, and all that other stuff. And two, just because of the particular situation that somebody's coming from. So, for instance, if a wife, stay-at-home wife, which plenty of them all around, stay-at-home wife cheats on her husband or whatever, wrongs her husband in some type of way and is like, I don't want to be here no more. I'm out. That situation is going to be really fucked up. Mostly because the husband, to no fault of his own, is left and now has to support the new lifestyle of his ex-wife. Now, the intention of the court, again, this is only if they have a child, rather. I'm speaking to cases with children. There are similar things for married with no kids, but I'm speaking to the issue of child support. In this scenario, the court system is still thinking, well, you were supporting her in the marriage, so you're going to be supporting her outside the marriage. Your duty to support her extends beyond your vows. Mostly because of this kid. Now, the money that goes directly to the wife, that's taken care of with alimony or spousal support. But the child living with her and her having no income means the amount of money that the father pays for her in child support is going to be significantly greater than if he didn't have any children with her. He'd have to still pay alimony or spousal support, but now child support on top of that when she don't have no job. And now I can't say, I don't know the rules if you don't have a job, if they require you to get a job to be able to support that child or not. But either way, until she's able to catch up, unless and until she's able to catch up with his income, he's having to fork over basically, that double that money. And that's even if he has split 50-50 custody of that child, which is quite crazy. And I can imagine how devastating that must be to be heartbroken and then have to now finance their new life with their new boo and stuff like that. That's a fucked up scenario, and that happens every day. It happens every day, not just with kids, without kids as well, and also in vice versa. When one of the person, that happens anytime the person that has the higher income is left. They then have to shoulder the burden of finance for their partner that is leaving them. And that sucks. Sometimes it is, I won't say, sometimes it doesn't feel as bad. For instance, if the person that is leaving because of abuse or something like that, or the partner stepped out on them, then it feels a little bit more justified because it's like you were the one that defaulted in this case. You broke the contract of our marriage. I'm just executing it and leaving, and now you have to pay up. That feels a little bit more righteous or just. But it happens the other way around all the time because, again, the way that the system works is very devoid of humanity. Not once do they really ask, what happened. The most that they have is irreconcilable differences, which is the catch-all for we don't want to be together no more. And we don't matter if it's we or me or him or her. It doesn't matter. That's just the label that it goes under. And the judge is like, make me no, never mind. I don't care. And while I understand it, because they don't have time, the judges don't have time to have an episode of Maury or Dr. Phil or whatever leading them to a conclusion. They don't have time to be swayed by emotion or subjective matters. They really have to handle the law from an objective standpoint. That's what we vote for them to do. Now, of course, anytime it's us on the other side of that, stand, we want a little bit of heart to be up in there, but it don't be. It don't be. It's just as cold as it is for a criminal case, as it is for a white collar crime, as it is for the future of your family in a civil family court kind of matter. So it kind of sucks. And so there's the unfairness of the system working as planned when the situation doesn't really fit the resolution of that case. And then back to the lying and the cheating and the stealing and all the other stuff. Y'all, this is so prevalent. So prevalent in the system, in these court cases. Like, it is a common thing. Everything that I've dealt with, allegedly, hypothetically, ain't nothing new under the sun. But there's also no, I won't say no cure, but it is ridiculous what you have to do to it's not even outsmart, to find a just way through the fuckery. So a very common thing to do, and I get it, because a lot of people hear the idea of child support and they freak out. Nothing but horror stories, especially for men that are going into the courtroom. Whether you're married or unmarried, the child support system seems to largely benefit women, and men run for their lives when they hear that word. Some men. Other men, depending on where you are financially and your views on what it is, have a different approach to it. And so, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm a rule follower. But I've always been of the mindset, even if I don't trust the law to actually be just for a lot of things, there's just something in me that's like, I won't say something. I know exactly where it's from. Years of having situations like selling my house and them being able to weasel their way out and it not being able to pursue that. I've had things like that happen with, all types of contractors that we had do work for us that, do a terrible job. There's no way to actually go after them without, again, spending a lot of time, money, and energy. And over the years, I have developed the stance or the philosophy that my peace is more precious than revenge in many of these cases. Sometimes you do have to do it, especially when it's something that is going to have long-lasting effects. For instance, this divorce. There's a lot of shit that I would just throw my hands up and just listen, so be it. But this custody kind of thing lasts for at least 18 years. We got 2 down, so 16 more. It has lasting effects, of which I know not. I don't know what year 5 of parenting is going to be like, let alone year 18. So sometimes I have to get in the ring, and I don't want to be there. That's why, divorce is so difficult and so nasty, because two people, there's a lot of, already tension between you, but you're fighting for something so precious and so near and dear to your hearts and so impactful to your lives going forward, your lives and your legacy, that it's very difficult to keep both people out of the ring and keep the boxing gloves off. But, it just kind of is what it is. And so in this process, it is very easy to muddy the waters. And that's pretty much all that you need to do to throw a wrench into the system. It's like it is like an old printer that just gets jammed all the time. You throw, a follicle of hair in that thing and it's jammed up. That's kind of how the system is. All you really need to do is act a fool. You need to do the bare minimum. You need to know the system enough to know what you need to do to stay in the game, but you don't need to really do anything. So allegedly, you can take the approach of, I'm just here so I don't get fined, skate on by, and never get anything actually done, And that's kind of what I've been going through. Just a whole bunch of nonsense that doesn't really move forward, doesn't get any, it just gets more and more complicated and nonsensical by the minute. And it just wears you down because it also ain't free. It is certainly not free. And I can't imagine what many people do that don't have the resources to even show up to the fight, It is taxing. It's so much. And I can't say what I would do if I was on the other side, but I would hope that I would hope that my integrity would remain intact. But also I know that I might get robbed, who knows? But I would say having me on the other side of the table, man, is like winning the lottery because of my commitment to morality, to my integrity. And it's something that I'm proud of, but also frustrated as hell by. So when I say my commitment to morality and integrity, I don't say that to puff myself up because I don't even think that it comes from a good place. Quite honestly, it is the way that I'm wired, and it is a fear that I have that's deep down that I need to work out through therapy of being, of tarnishing my character, and not just to myself, but to others. I pride myself on being able to say that this is the person that I am, and don't get me wrong, my character is all kinds of tarnished, but not in the way that bothers me. So, I can get up here and use every cuss word in the history of ever and not feel tainted at all. Like I can be running these streets and not feel an ounce of shame. But if I do something that is done mean-spirited, or if I hurt a person unjustly, if I go too far, if I get too out of character, then I'm embarrassed. That's not the way that Alexa should be carrying herself. And I honestly respect that in other people too, just kind of that level of composure is something that it's just how I run my life and how I that's what I like to see in others as well. So it's a quality that I respect around the board, but it severely hampers me in cases like this. But I do think it's for the better because honestly, I do feel like my life is blessed because of it. Because I am not giving in to the strong pull to retaliate or to just act a goddamn fool. I ultimately think that it leads to more peace and just, I feel like I'll just be happier for it because ultimately I'm just letting a lot of shit go, which in this game of life, you have so little control over things that a lot of stuff you do have to kind of just let go. Otherwise, it will rot you from the inside out, worrying and stuff about stuff. And I believe me, I worry enough. I desire so much control in my life and over my surroundings that is not attainable, that I have no choice but to learn to let things go. That's something that I learned in marriage, definitely something that I have learned as a mother. And I am trying to further that skill, especially through this divorce process, and beyond. In work, it's a concept that is so vital to my existence that I wish I knew about it earlier. But I will say that developing this skill, honing this skill, man, it's been the most useful thing I've ever learned to do. And that is letting shit go. As a parent, as a wife, and I have a lot of work to do in this area as a wife. Well, of course, my wife time was cut short, so I got to find another nigga to practice on, or actually to grow with. But things like, oh my goodness, the man cave. Oh man, it was a tough adjustment. It's crazy. In the beginning of my marriage, I had no interest in a man cave. By the end, I was so grateful for the man cave. You start to understand what the use of things is, and how it can positively impact your life, you know? As far as like the man cave, it wasn't so much as having a man cave that bothered me, because it sounded like a fun, interior decoration project. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to fit, it was exciting to be able to like fit it out and make it all like super functional and stuff, which I didn't get a chance to because it wasn't ultimately my man cave, and that wasn't his desire for me to fit it out. It was for him to do that. Also, it costs money. But anyways, over time, I recognized the value of him having a space to go to, retreat to, that was all his, because most of the time in many houses, but definitely in my house, the rest of the design in the house, the rest of the furnishings and the spirit in the rest of the house was largely set by me. I was the one with the design influence or the profession and stuff like that. So it was kind of me dictating a lot of those things. Now, definitely I took in consideration things that bothered him or that he liked, but also, he wanted posters. I'm not gonna have posters, and there was a line, and ultimately, I think the general pop, including him, agreed that my taste was a little bit better as far as like a whole household is concerned. But that room, he got to have at it. Whatever you want in that room is completely up to you. And that was a learning curve for me, not just letting him decorate, but staying the fuck out of it. Because you go and you clean the house, and you want to be able to leave the doors open, people walk into your house or whatever. Not that they do, but in your mind, that everything just has its place, and this is also before kids, that it's kept up with the rest of the house as well. And that wasn't what that room was for. That room was meant to be a, forbidden, no wife allowed zone for him to just be free and be as messy as he wants or clean as he wants, and just have that space that wasn't controlled by me, and it took me some time to understand that, and to not just, because we had to wait. Well, we didn't have to wait, but it was my desire to wait until we had enough bedrooms to be able to, okay, now we can designate one as a man cave. Before it was like, okay, we have our bedroom, now we need a guest room, then you can have a man cave kind of thing. But really, after having learned, throughout that relationship, now I'd be like, yeah, that space is just as important as our master bedroom. If the rest of the house is designed by me and you don't feel as represented in it, then either we find some way to make sure you feel represented in the rest of the house, or you get your own space, and so it's kind of understanding how beneficial it is to let go of some of the things that have us wound so tight. And so in the case of this alleged process, I have let a lot of things go that may or may not be to my benefit. I don't really know, but just to kind of survive, I've had to just be like, fuck it. All right, guys. Yep, you guessed it. That's all for today, folks. You're going to have to catch the rest of this conversation next week, airing Wednesday. And trust me, it gets better. It is good, y'all. So thank you so much, as always, for rocking with me. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel, y'all. Tell your friends about me. If you listen to the podcast by audio, check us out on all the streaming platforms: Anchor FM, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts. Wherever you look for podcasts, we're there. If you are on social media, that's Twitter, that's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, check me out. It's Alexis. So that's ISS_Alexis. No E, no I, double S. If that isn't confusing enough, just check the link in the description for all of my handles. And yeah, I can't wait to see you guys in another episode.